Right now, millions of travelers are paying $300 a night in Santorini and $250 for a beachfront room in Mykonos, genuinely believing that a Mediterranean summer has to cost that much. And while those same travelers are maxing out their credit cards in Greece, a completely different coastline is sitting just across the water. Same turquoise sea, same cliffs and Mediterranean sun, but dinner is $8, a sea view room is $35, and the water is among the clearest in Europe, with almost no one around. I am talking about Albania beaches, and in 2026, this is the Mediterranean secret that is finally starting to get out. Today I'm giving you everything nobody told me, the real costs, the best beaches, the hidden spots travel guides skip, and the one beach that made me rethink every pricey European trip I've taken. Let's get into it. Welcome to Fav Leisure Travel, where we help you travel more and spend less. For years, Albania was the destination that experienced travelers whispered about, the one that showed up on hidden gems lists but never quite broke into mainstream travel consciousness. That is changing fast in 2026, and the reason is simple. Word is finally spreading about what travelers are actually finding when they show up here. Albania sits on two coastlines, the Adriatic Sea to the west and the Ionian Sea to the south. The Ionian coastline, known as the Albanian Riviera, is where the dramatic scenery lives, and it is where we are covering most of this guide. What makes the Albanian Riviera unique isn't just the price, it's the mix of activities you almost never find in one destination together. Genuinely stunning Mediterranean scenery, crystal clear water that rivals anywhere in Greece or Croatia, a food culture that is deeply authentic and genuinely delicious, and a price structure that feels like Europe 10 or 15 years ago. Here is what you need to know before you go. Getting to Albania, what it actually costs. The first thing most travelers want to know is how to get there, and this is where Albania immediately starts making financial sense. By air, Tirana International Airport is well connected to most European cities. Budget flights from London cost between $55 to $100 for round trip, depending on season. Within Europe, round trip flights often cost $35 to $65. From the US, most routes connect through Europe, with return fares generally $600 to $1,000 depending on city season and booking window. Traveling in May or October rather than peak summer brings the cost closer to the lower end of that range. By ferry. One of the most underrated ways to reach the Albanian Riviera is the ferry from Corfu to Saranda. The crossing takes about 35 minutes and costs around $20 one way. If you're already in Greece, it's an incredible option. You step off the ferry and you're instantly in one of Albania's most beautiful beach towns. By land. If you are already traveling through the Balkans, crossing into Albania by a bus from Montenegro, North Macedonia, or Kosovo is extremely affordable. Most bus connections cost between $10 and $25 depending on distance. Once inside Albania, getting around is where Albania stays budget-friendly. Bus fares run $3 to $8 minivans. The furgons are $2 to $5 and local taxis $3 to $7. A day of transport around the Riviera costs about $15. Saranda, where the Albanian Riviera begins. Saranda is most travelers' first encounter with the Albanian Riviera, and it is the town that tends to reframe everything you thought you knew about Mediterranean travel costs. Saranda sits directly across the water from the Greek island of Corfu. On a clear day, you can see Corfu from the beach. The same Ionian Sea, the same shade of impossible blue-green water, but a completely different price reality. A full restaurant meal in Saranda, fresh grilled fish, a Greek-style salad, bread, and a cold local beer cost around $9. That same meal across the water in Corfu would cost $45 to $60 without hesitation. What Saranda costs in 2026, accommodation, budget guest houses start at $20 to $35. Sea view hotels usually run $40 depending on season. A balcony room with a sea view is typically $50 to $60. Food. A sit-down restaurant meal for one person costs around $6 to $12. Street food and bakery items cost $1 to $3 a coffee at a seafront cafe is around $1.50. Fresh seafood dinner for two, including wine, costs around $20 to $30. Daily budget in Saranda, including accommodation, 3 meals, transport, and activities, comfortably around $60 to $80 per day for one person. The beach in Saranda itself is a long stretch of pebble and sand with clear, shallow water. The water quality here consistently rates among the best in the Mediterranean. Pro tip for Saranda: Walk 20 minutes south along the coast path to reach hidden coves most travelers miss. The water turns a deeper turquoise as you leave the main beach, and the crowds vanish. Ksamil, the beach that makes people question everything. If Saranda reframes your expectations, Ksamil completely resets them. Ksamil is a small beach village 14 miles south of Saranda, and it consistently makes lists of the most beautiful beaches in all of Europe. The reason is obvious the moment you see it. Ksamil's 3 small offshore islands sit in water so clear and so intensely turquoise that people think the photos are edited. They're not. Swim to the nearest island and you'll see the sandy bottom the whole way. In June and July, the water stays around 75 to 77 degrees, warm, calm, and crystal clear top to bottom. What Ksamil costs in 2026? Beach sunbed rental, $5 to $8 per day including umbrella, compared to $30 to $50 for the same setup in Mykonos or Santorini. Accommodation, guest houses and apartments start from $25 to $45 per night. Dinner, seafood restaurants line the beachfront. A full dinner of fresh mussels, grilled sea bream, salad, and local wine for 2 people range from $25 to $35. For scenery and water like this, the prices are super budget friendly. Visit in June or September for warm water, smaller crowds, and rates 20 to 30% lower than peak summer. Jale Beach, the hidden gem of the Albanian Riviera. Jale Beach is one of those hidden coastal gems travelers discover and instantly wish they'd booked more nights. Jale Beach sits between Saranda to the south and Vlore to the north along the dramatic Albanian Riviera coastal road. The setting alone is spectacular. The beach curves into a perfect half-moon bay, framed by hills of ancient olive trees. The water is a deep, unreal azure, the kind of color photos never capture and you have to see to believe. What makes Jale different from Saranda or Ksamil is what surrounds it. This is where the Albanian Riviera reveals its most adventurous side. From Jale Beach, you can rent a sea kayak for around $3 per hour and follow the coastline north to discover caves that cut directly into the sea cliffs. Mermaid's Cave, Fig's Cave, and the most impressive of all, Pirate's Cave. Pirate's Cave is a vast limestone cavern where the ceiling opens to the sky above and the water inside glows neon turquoise from the sunlight filtering through. You can kayak directly into the cave and swim inside it. The cave earned its name because Albanian pirates once used it as shelter from storms, and the Albanian writer Petro Marko was so captivated by it that he wrote a novel inspired by its atmosphere, which was later adapted into a film. A 40-minute kayak paddle along the coast from Jale also brings you to Jale Beach, one of the most beautiful and private beaches in all of Albania. Jale is completely enclosed by towering cliffs and cannot be reached by road or car. The only way in is by boat, kayak, or a 35-minute coastal walk. The result is a beach that feels genuinely untouched. White sand, crystal water, and almost no one else there. For travelers who want a beach experience that feels like a private discovery, Jale is breathtaking. 2 kilometers north of Jale in the opposite direction sits Aquarium Bay, a small cove surrounded by rocks and cliffs where the water is so clear and the light plays through it. The name is perfect. You reach it on foot in about 20 minutes from Jale. What Jale Beach costs in 2026? Accommodation. Guest houses near the beach start from $27 to $33 per night. There is also a campsite set in an olive grove about 100 meters from the beach. That offers week packages including accommodation, breakfast, lunch, and access to recreational facilities for around $85 per person. One of the best value packages on the entire Albanian Riviera. Food. Local restaurants around Jale serve fresh seafood, grilled meats, and traditional Albanian dishes. A full lunch or dinner at a local restaurant costs around $4 to $11 per person. The combination of fresh Mediterranean food at these prices, with that view of the bay, is the kind of meal that becomes a permanent travel memory. Sea kayak rental, $3 per hour, opening up the entire coastline of caves, hidden coves, and secret beaches that most visitors never see. Getting to Jale. Take a bus from Vlore toward Himeri and ask the driver to stop at Jale, which is completely normal on Albanian Furgon routes. The journey costs around $3 to $5 from Vlore. Vlore, where the Adriatic meets the Ionian Sea. Vlore is Albania's second largest city, and it sits at the northern point of the Albanian Riviera where the Adriatic and Ionian Seas meet. Most travelers heading south pass through Vlore on their way to Saranda and Ksamil without stopping. But the ones who pause here, even for a day, often find it becomes one of the Riviera's most memorable stops. The beaches immediately south of Vlore, particularly along the road toward the Vlore National Park, are some of the most dramatic on the entire Albanian coastline. South of Vlore, the Karaburan Peninsula is almost completely wild and uninhabited. Half-day boat trips from the marina run $15 to $25 per person and take you to hidden coves and sea caves with some of the Balkans' most dramatic coastal scenery. Vlore stands out for budget travelers because it's a real Albanian city, not a tourist town. Hotels are 30 to 40% cheaper than in Saranda or Ksamil, with guest house rooms usually $22 to $40 a night. Food in Vlore shows true local prices. A byrek, a cheese or spinach bakery pastry, costs about $0.8 to $1.20 from a bakery. A cafe meal in the central square runs $7 to $12 per person with a drink. At the higher end, resort properties on the central Albanian coast offer all-inclusive options starting from $80 to $120 per night, still dramatically cheaper than comparable Mediterranean resorts in Greece, Croatia, or Turkey. Albania Beach Trip. Budget breakdown for travelers. Here is what a realistic one-week Albania budget travel trip cost range in 2026. Flights from Europe, 80 to 180 return depending on origin city. 7 nights accommodation across Saranda, Ksamil, Jale, and Vlore. Budget option averaging $25 per night, mid-range option averaging $50 per night. $350 total for 7 nights. Food for 7 days eating mostly local restaurants and street food cost $15 to $20 per day, $105 to $140 total. Transport within Albania for 7 days including buses, furgons, and local taxis, priced around $8 to $12 per day, $56 to $84 total. Activities including boat tours, kayak rental, beach sunbeds, and entrance fees is about $10 to $15 per day, $70 to $105 total. Total for one person for 7 days in Albania including flights. Budget option, $486 to $582. Mid-range category, $730 to $895. Compare that to a 7-day trip to Santorini or Mykonos, where accommodation alone typically costs $150 to $300 per night, and the value that the Albanian Riviera delivers in 2026 becomes unmatched. And before we get to the one thing most Albania travel guides completely leave out, hit that subscribe button. A new budget destination breakdown drops every single week, and next week's video covers a destination that makes even Albania look expensive. What nobody tells you before your Albania beach trip. The roads. The coastal road along the Albanian Riviera, particularly the stretch between Vlore and Saranda through the Vlore Pass, is one of the most dramatically beautiful drives in Europe. Cash is essential. In Albania, most places outside major hotels and big restaurants still operate on cash. ATMs in Saranda, Vlore, and other towns are available but can run low in peak summer, so withdraw enough for a few days whenever you see one. At the time of filming, $1 is about 82 to 86 Albanian lek. The language and the people. Albanian is genuinely difficult for English speakers, but almost everyone working in tourism speaks sufficient English. More importantly, Albanian hospitality is something that takes most visitors completely by surprise. Traveling Albania's beaches in 2026 offers something that has almost disappeared from Mediterranean travel: genuine beauty without expensive price tag that usually comes with Mediterranean destinations. The same Ionian Sea, with crystal clear water, the warm evenings, fresh seafood, and dramatic coastline. Your Albania Beach Trip Toolkit 2026. Saranda, gateway to the Riviera, ferry connection from Corfu, and guest houses from $20 night. Ksamil, the 3 islands, turquoise water, postcard beaches, stays from $25 night, best in June or September. Jale Beach, Azure Bay, Pirates Cave, Jale Beach, sea kayaking from $3 hour, and guest houses from $27 night. Vlore, where 2 seas meet, access to the wild Karaburan Peninsula, and accommodation stays from $22 night. A week on Albania's beaches typically costs between $210 and $380 per traveler, not including flights, depending on your accommodation, travel season, and activities. Flight ticket prices vary widely depending on your departure city, but travelers coming from Europe often find affordable fares, especially outside the peak of July and August. If this travel guide helped you discover what Albania really offers in 2026, hit like and subscribe for more adventures from around the world. I post a new destination travel guide every week. And tell me in the comments below, Would you choose Albania over Greece for your Mediterranean trip this year? Until next time, safe travels.